The official announcement has not been made by USA Basketball, so it'd be premature for me to have any conversations about any player or anything. I told him I thought defensively we played, again, mostly well enough to win. Our offense is putting so much pressure.
Caitlyn Clark scored an incredible 17 points in the fourth quarter of a tight game against the Minnesota Lynx, transforming a 7-point deficit into an exciting 81-74 triumph. Fans of the Fever were ecstatic as Clark addressed Lynx coach Cheryl Reeve, who had excluded her from the Olympic squad both literally and symbolically. Is it not astounding how the sheer willpower of a single player can alter the course of the game? The best scorer in college basketball history is Caitlyn Clark. She swiftly made a name for herself as a formidable player for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Her remarkable scoring prowess and playmaking acumen made her one of the most captivating players to watch. Not only were her numbers astounding, but so was the way she played the game, with a style and assurance that made her seem like some of the all-time greats. There was a lot of hype around her WNBA draft declaration. People were eager to watch how her professional game would develop, but Caitlyn had her fair share of early setbacks, just like many newcomers. When compared to collegiate basketball, the WNBA is a different animal because of its faster tempo, stronger athletes, and more intense competition. Caitlyn had to change quickly, and for a while it felt like she was getting her bearings, but she began to show signs of resilience and determination. She was a multifaceted player who could make an impact in the game in addition to being a scorer. She could also pull rebounds, pass the ball, and manage the tempo of play. USA Basketball has not yet made the formal announcement. When Caitlyn was left off of the Team USA Olympic team, Minnesota Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve made waves. There was a great deal of uncertainty and criticism around this decision.
And we're going to hear a lot that you guys are going to talk about. You're going to ask me privately, are we going to tank for Caitlyn Clark and like that? Like, it's not. The official announcement has not been made by USA Basketball, so it'd be premature for me to have any conversations about any player or anything.
Here we had one of the game's brightest young talents, Caitlyn Clark, who was not going to represent her nation at the Olympics. For many, it made no sense at all. Reeve defended his choice by stating that it was based on common sense and experience. She brought up the fact that Caitlyn didn't have the ideal start to her WNBA career and was preoccupied with March Madness, which prevented her from being able to attend the training camp. Reeve said that rookies very seldom make the Olympic squad, and Caitlyn's situation was no exception. Many nevertheless believe that this was a foolish decision. Young athletes like Caitlyn have the opportunity to flourish and earn priceless experience at the Olympics. There was a strong backlash. Commentators, supporters, and even past athletes voiced their dissatisfaction and disappointment. It was about more than just the basketball. It was about what Caitlyn meant for the sport's future. She has the capacity to have a big influence on women's basketball worldwide in addition to Team USA. It was always being compared to Michael Jordan and the Dream Team, and how their 1992 Olympic participation altered the course of history. Many thought Caitlyn could benefit the women's game in the same way. Caitlyn didn't let the rejection to break her down. Rather, she turned it into motivation to disprove her skeptics. Following that choice, every game she played felt like a declaration to the world, proving to them that she belonged on that Olympic team.
Playing the WNBA and earn a basketball scholarship. Like, those were two of my goals. There was a bunch of other ones probably
We're definitely playing good basketball. I feel like we're definitely finding some confidence in what we're being able to do out there on the court. We're playing together better.
And it was evident that Caitlyn had something to prove to Cheryl Reeve when the Fever and Lynx played. It was difficult not to perceive her outstanding performance in that game as a kind of delicious retaliation. The anxiety was palpable before the game even began. The Indiana Fever, led by Caitlyn Clark, were in high spirits before of their game against the Minnesota Lynx.
More steals per game than Minnesota, and underneath to Boston. That was a nice look from Smith.
There probably could have been a few times where instead of passing that leads to turnover that I may have, I can probably shoot the ball, but...
However, there was additional drama in this game because Caitlyn had been passed over for the Olympic squad by Lynx coach Cheryl Reeve. It was evident that Caitlyn was planning to exact revenge. Reeve made some really disparaging remarks about the Fever supporters who were anticipated to be out in large numbers, which only served to stoke the flames.
You know, as Sill's gone, and so this new era to figure out what the best path is, to be successful.
She dismissed the support of the opposing team supporters, acting as though it didn't matter. You know Caitlyn, though, she's the type of player who gets a kick out of disproving people. Even though Caitlyn was playing against their side, the Minnesota audience was obviously quite fond of her before the game was tipped off. However, Reeve appeared to be succeeding in his goal to hold Caitlyn accountable over the first 3 quarters. Caitlyn was having trouble getting into a rhythm, and her shots were not dropping. After Minnesota jumped out to a 20, 19 lead after the first quarter, the Lynx took command early on. Although the score was knotted at 38 at halftime, Minnesota was clearly in the lead. For Caitlyn and the Fever, things appeared much worse in the third quarter. They were outscored by the Lynx, who took a 60-53 lead. By the end of the third quarter, Caitlyn had just 7 points, and it looked like the game was going to get away from her. But the fourth quarter showed what a remarkable turnaround may be. It was as though Caitlyn had emerged as a totally different player with fire in her eyes.
I am never going to try to be in that situation. You know, Caitlyn Clark might make you want to lose every game. I told him I thought defensively we played, again, mostly well enough to win. Our offense is putting so much pressure.
She dominated the game, scoring 17 points in only the last quarter. A three-pointer immediately at the outset set the tone for the rest of the game. With less than 7 minutes remaining, she made a couple of crucial baskets, one of which was a driving layup that put the Fever ahead 67-65. The best part was when she made Bridget Carleton of Minnesota look foolish by crossing over her and then sped in for a simple layup. The audience went crazy, and the momentum seemed to change. Caitlyn's ability to create plays was evident as she finished with 3 rebounds and 6 assists. In the fourth quarter, the Fever outscored the Lynx 28-14, overcoming a 7-point deficit to win 81-74. Caitlyn had a pivotal role in the incredible recovery. Her play was not limited to the number of points she scored, it also included how she managed the game and supported her team when they needed it most. The Fever's 8th victory in their previous 12 games demonstrates how far they've come from their difficult season opener. The Lynx, meanwhile, slumped to 16, 8 after a difficult defeat that caused them to fall farther behind the Las Vegas Aces in the Western Conference rankings. Let's discuss the magic Caitlyn Clark displayed on the floor during that Minnesota Lynx game. Her first three-pointer of the fourth quarter set the whole thing off. As she released the shot, you could see the resolve in her eyes, and you could just sense that something extraordinary was going to happen. For the remainder of the game, her performance was igniting like a spark. Her matchup with Bridget Carleton was one of the most astounding moments. After executing a spectacular crossover play that left Carleton flailing, Caitlyn drove in for a simple layup. The audience erupted in hysterics. That play made a statement rather than merely being a highlight. Caitlyn was demonstrating to everyone her strength and ability to defeat anyone. And then there was the assist to Boston that sealed the game. Caitlyn drove to the hoop, drawing in the defenders with less than 3 minutes remaining and the Fever hanging on to a slim lead. She passed the ball to Boston at the last second and he lay it in for a simple bucket. The Fever led 73-71 after that play, and they never looked back. Throughout the entire game, the fan reactions were extraordinary. You could hear the excitement in the arena from the very beginning. Fans of the Fever who had come to watch Caitlyn play were evident, despite the fact that the game was being held in Minnesota. Her supporters' cheers could be heard every time she touched the ball. For her, it was practically a home game, which had to have irritated Cheryl Reeve quite a bit.